Hello and welcome back to another video about the future of the Runner series, particularly about Expeditions, a MudRunner game. And the subject of this video is going to be modding and user-generated content. And the main reason I wanted to talk about this is because this is a subject that a lot of the discussion has been pretty quiet on, at least from the standpoint of the developers. Because if you think about it and you kind of look over here and over here in relation to what we've been shown, we haven't really been shown much on the sort of the modding front. Are we going to have a mod browser similar to the way SnowRunner is going to work, or rather the way SnowRunner has worked for years now? Is it going to support different platforms the same as SnowRunner does? I mean, to be honest, they have a pretty good system in place in terms of what SnowRunner already has, and if they wanted to just port that over, I'm sure they could. However, the SnowRunner system does have its own set of, honestly, we'll just call them problems, because the SnowRunner system does have its own definitely genuine set of problems, and it's never been a perfect system, although it's definitely been one of the widest used systems of its kind. And so I think when you find yourself in like a sticky situation like that, I don't know if it makes more sense to just go with the flaws that it already has and then just try to fix them as you go, or do you try to rebuild from the ground up and risk having a whole bunch of other issues? Because then I think you might run into I don't know, maybe a bit of a Forza Motorsport built from the ground up scenario. But regardless, I think modding would definitely be something that's important to see in Expeditions, although I just don't know if it's going to have the same level of focus put on it. And I honestly say that for a multitude of reasons, but one being because I've seen a lot of mod creators walk away from SnowRunner over the years because of various frustrations with the game or the system, or like the mod delivery system, for example, or just frustrations with the community at large in just kind of in general, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the SnowRunner community can be genuinely brutal at times. And I think when you have a very brutal community, not saying whatsoever that the entire community is like that, but when you have a community where sometimes certain parts of it can be quite brutal, especially towards the modding community, mod creators aren't going to want to stay. I mean, they pour their time and effort and heart and soul into these creations, and honestly, when so many of them have been met on the other side of a mod release with, well, why didn't you do this way? Why didn't you have this option? Why is it not on this system? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? You should have done this way. This mod is bad because you didn't put XYZ feature in it. And not to sound old, but, you know, back in my day, we didn't even have mods on console. Oh my god, I don't even want to put that in the video. Huh. But no, I mean, sounding old aside, I mean, never mind the fact that a lot of my friends do call me old, but we're not gonna get into a conversation that's gonna make me cry. So, and this is of course not to say that you can't be critical of any mods or offer constructive criticism to mod creators or this, that, and the other. But it's more to say that there have been mod creators that have moved away from the SnowRunner landscape because of how it honestly just incredibly intense the environment was, especially when the modding opened up to a lot of the consoles. Now, I think a lot of that also too is probably due to the fact that the large part of the console user base just hasn't had the experience of having a mod, I don't know, not necessarily a storefront, but just like a mod browser right there at their fingertips, and they're used to more DLCs, and they're also used to, honestly, how they react and how most, well, not necessarily most, but how a lot of people react when a DLC doesn't feature maybe things that they wanted or things that they were expecting, and people get mad. I mean, hell, you would think some of the comments I've seen on some of the DLC releases, you would think that people would legitimately believe that because of 1 or 2 bad DLCs, you would think people's entire world was ending and crumbling around them, and that, I don't know, that their childhood had been ruined. And I don't know anything about, I don't know anything about what it's like to have your childhood ruined, but I can only imagine that it would just be purely catastrophic. So anyway, back on the trail after my aptly timed rollover. I don't know how that was so aptly timed, especially considering the fact that this is not recorded live. This is post-recorded commentary. So I don't know. I'm way off in the woods somewhere in terms of where this commentary has gone, and I really need to get back on track. So where were we? Oh, yes. Ruined childhoods. Oh, wait, no. Modding in expeditions. That's right. I think I'm honestly having too much fun with that at this point. I've definitely leaned into it a lot. I've also leaned into it a lot more than I thought I was going to, but I mean, when someone gives you such hilarious source material to work with and it's just literally all there and it's all right there in the open, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to use that. So anyway, without any more just continuous rambling, which your girl is very good at, going back to what I think the modding landscape in expeditions could look like if we do end up having a modding landscape similar to that of SnowRunner. So honestly, with what I've seen in terms of Expeditions gameplay and also having played the preview build and having a chance to actually check that out, I think that for one, we're probably going to see in terms of modding, if that does end up becoming a thing the way we know today in SnowRunner, or at least in a similar way in Expeditions, I think one thing that we are definitely going to see a lot less of is a lot less trailers and a lot less heavy-duty trucks. However, I do think that trucks like, for example, this F450 mod would honestly be right at home in Expeditions. I mean, honestly, this truck would probably drop right over. Now, I'm sure that would require a little bit of coding changes and a few other changes in terms of the way things work, because while Expeditions does look and play similarly to SnowRunner, I'm sure that there are a lot of things under the, the hood, as it were, under the hood of the game that have been changed and adjusted and work similarly, but in slightly different ways. And at the end of the day, I do honestly think that there are a lot of mods in SnowRunner, like, for example, a lot of John Hot Rod stuff, like either this particular truck or John Hot Rod's interpretation of a Bronco Raptor. There are a lot of different vehicles by John Hot Rod in particular that I think would drop right into Expeditions really, really well, especially, again, as someone that has played the preview build. I also think a lot of Dubs' mods would drop in really well. I think a lot of Diesel Addicts mods would drop in really well as well. I don't know how many times I can say as well in the same sentence, but I don't know why. I have like a problem sometimes with repeating certain words, and then I go back and I correct myself and I'm like, actually, I meant to use this word. And maybe that happens to some of y'all. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure. I don't know. If you want to let me know in the comments below, feel free to. Or if you want to tell me in the comments that I've just absolutely ruined your childhood, you can tell me that as well. I'm not really gonna, I'm not here to tell you what to do, or tell you what to say, or tell you what to, But honestly, to really genuinely wrap this up, if you have any thoughts about what you would like to see in terms of a modding landscape in Expeditions, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. Do you think you would like something very similar to what SnowRunner has now? Just kind of system-wise and the logistics of how the mods are handled? Or would you not really care if the game had mod support or not? With it being a spin-off, do you think it's like even remotely important that it has mod support? I know a lot of people will say that it is important, But honestly, I'm sure that there's probably an equal, or, you know, who knows, an equal amount, maybe give or take, of others that are maybe not quite as swayed by the inclusion of mods one way or another. I personally will always push for the inclusion of user-generated content because I think it does so much for the landscape of a game, and also it does so much for a game's longevity. But that's only my personal opinion, and y'all are free to have whichever one you want in terms of that. So, with all of that being said, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments, and I will see y'all next time.